It's so lovely to be here, and it feels such an honour and a privilege to be able to interview my lovely friend Claire, Pedrick, and Lucia, and and just celebrate this book being launched. So I'm going to ask a few questions for a little while now, kind of just do this interview. These questions are based on some of my own inquiries I'm really interested in, but also people have been sending some questions in saying, if you're going to be interviewing, please ask this question. So let's see where we get with it. I mean, first and foremost, I'd really love to know, and I think everybody else would, how did this book come about as a joint endeavor? How did it start in your mindsets? And what about Lucia? Do you want to start with that?
Yeah, sure. We met during the first lockdown. It was back in 2020, so nearly 3.5 years ago. I reached out to Claire for some mentor coaching because I was working on my MCC at the time. And we had some conversations, some deep conversations. And the focus of these conversations were initially about mastery and what mastery meant in each of the core competencies of the ICF, because of course we were using those as a reference. And as we were exploring that, we dived deeper into what needed to be different within ourselves in order to be able to be artful, to demonstrate these competencies in the coaching room. And then one day, I think I wrote an email to Claire. I don't remember how this was communicated, but the story is in the introduction of our book. I mentioned something about the core qualities, that I wanted to explore the core qualities we need to cultivate to be able to demonstrate these competencies in the room. And that was the first time, I think, that we talked about qualities. And I remember when we got together the next time, Claire said, oh, yes, we should explore that a bit deeper. And we started to shift from mastery towards something that is more about being artful, so being different in the room. And so the idea of the book became something else. And it emerged again over a lot of conversations, and we went deeper and deeper as we went through.
Great, thank you. What about you, Claire? Because you have these ideas and to bounce off. What do you want to pick up from that?
Well, I'd written stuff down for something at some point. And as soon as Lucia and I started working together, what was clear was that the work that we were generating was going to make a great book. It's all in a folder somewhere, but we didn't draw on any of that in the final book at all, because as Lucia said, we completely changed our minds on the way. But it just felt like there was need for a book to support people to think about how to become even better. But of course, better isn't more. Better is often less and different. So it was a work in progress for a long time. And we were really grateful to Alison Jones at Practical Inspiration for totally tolerating the fact that we didn't really know what we were doing until 2 years into the project, after she'd given us a contract and the book didn't have a title or really that much shape.
Fabulous.
So, yeah.
Well, go ahead.
No, please do.
We actually had a title at some point, but we trashed it. We even bought a domain, a web domain.
Yeah, we did.
Called Growing into Mastery, because that was supposed to be the title of our book. But we trashed it because the initial intention was to explore the competencies and what mastery meant. And so that's why we talked about mastery. But as our conversation unfolded, we realized that there was so much more to explore. That is more about who we are and what we bring to the room rather than, mastery.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. And I know we've had this conversation, but there's so many parallels with, I'm also writing a book with a colleague, and we laugh about this, and Claire and I have laughed about this idea that the muse is going around and, we keep either picking it up and letting it go, but this idea of mastery, and we all keep getting to that place of, nah, it's not really mastery. And so you trash that idea. What was the point that you kind of went, no, it's not mastery?
I think Claire observed once that we can listen to a recording that seems perfect as we read the transcript, but then as we listen to it, it just doesn't flow. So the sound and the words and the music, if we read it, it's fine, but if we listen to it, it's not artful.
Yeah.
And so I think, go ahead, Claire.
Yeah, and it, you know, if mastery is all about good listening and good questions, actually it isn't, because lots of people can ask good questions, but that doesn't make it artful. So what we began to recognize was that what we were looking at was the in-between stuff. So the flow and the partnership and the connection. And Karen, I would like to publicly apologize that I wrote your book before you did.
I am sure you did it far more beautifully, but I love that you've got this concept running through about the music and even what you just said, Claire, about it's the notes in between sometimes that are the most important things, aren't they? And coming to that place. But yeah.
And I have to say thank you. We want to say thank you to, there are lots of people on this call that have been really fundamental to creating the book. Yeah. So Gary's here who really helped with the dancing stuff. Yeah. Lucy Bolster's here who really helped with the music stuff. Yeah. Kim Witten's here who really helped with the words and the flow and all those things. So, and many others.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it in our community, of it, all of these ideas coming together and somebody bringing that to life. And it's great that you've done that. The other parallel with that I was thinking about was you did this beautiful retreat, and I saw it on LinkedIn, where you went off to Lake Garda at the time when Julia and I were sitting here in the Yorkshire Dales on our retreat, and I was thinking, somebody's got it right. Because Lake Garda sounded beautiful. So just what are some of the highlights from your writing retreat there?
Well, I'm going to go with the low light first.
Oh.
So we thought that, well, the highlight was that we met in person for the first time. That was amazing. And of course, it's a beautiful place, and it was just a very great place to be creative. The low light was we thought we were bringing it together for the last bit. And what we realized was that we had to really drill in a different way. So it was much harder work than we expected, I think.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Lots of work. And maybe a funny story about it is that we had to go through an exercise that I never thought we would have done. So Claire, after we completed the tidy up and we reviewed the draft of all the chapters, we came to a point where we were happy. We took them to print, and with paper and scissors, we chopped the whole book into pieces. And that was because we had to decide where to plug the exercises and see where they fit. And so it was like we had pieces of paper all over the house. It was just incredible, but very creative, and it was very generative. So that was another highlight for me.
Yeah, I had to persuade Lucia that cut and paste meant scissors, and then I had to get the scissors through customs, through the security at the airport. They were a kind of essential part of the kit. But the most extraordinary thing was that we were in this very isolated part of Lake Garda, and they had a print shop, so that was good.
Wow. Yeah. I thought it sounded very clear that you'd taken your scissors and actually done a cut and paste, not just a
scissors and tape.
Yeah.
If anyone's writing a book, that's my top tip.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. And I'm sure all of us on the call are really interested in this idea of the humanity of coaching. And, you know, you've talked about it as that dance, that music, all of that. And we got a lovely question from somebody asking us, so is this about being human and yourself, or is it about being human and yourself only better? So what's your thoughts on that, Claire?
Well, we have conversations with people who are thinking deeply about themselves and being vulnerable and all of those good things. And I think there's a real danger that we over-profession it, that it accidentally looks as though we're over professionalized, and it becomes I'm somebody who's sorted helping somebody who's not sorted. And that just doesn't work. It doesn't work, because unless the person that I'm in dialogue with understands that I too am human, there's a real invisible or maybe quite visible power imbalance.
Yeah, I love that. There is something about, certainly how I feel about it, if we don't do the work on ourselves and do all of that digging ourselves, how dare we ask anybody else to do that and sit alongside them? Yeah. Lucia, what about you?
I think what this book does is, at least what I'm expecting that the readers will experience, is to look at their coaching practice through different lenses. Because what I'm finding is when I talk about these qualities with other people, as I'm running a research project on humility in supervision, as you know, they haven't thought about it. And so it's helpful for them. It's helpful to increase self-awareness on what you're bringing to the coaching room so that you can intentionally be different. And if these qualities are not ours yet or need to be developed more, I think there's work we need to do outside of the coaching room to be able to bring them in the coaching room. And that makes us, better people as well.
Yeah, great. And that kind of leads me to ask another question that somebody else put in, and that's, what are you hoping, or what's your dream about what this book will do for people in the coaching world? What do you hope it's going to inspire people or unleash in people?
Yes, shall I answer?
Yeah, why not?
Pass the Claire. So the personal journey is one thing. So looking at yourselves, at your practice and how you're demonstrating these qualities, probably something that a lot of coaches haven't thought about or haven't reflected about. And there's lots of exercises in the book that help people do this, even, on their own or with a peer. But of course, this can be brought to mentor coaching or supervision. And the other thing is that I hope the books helps the coaching world shift a little bit more on the being of the coach, rather than focusing on techniques and tools that, yes, give us confidence and help us to a point. But if we want to grow beyond that, I think we need something different. What's your take on this?
Yeah, and I do love that about the book, that you've got the reflections all the way through. That's great. Claire, what about you? What's your hopes for what it will do?
Well, I've just seen that message from Catherine Lord. Thank you, Catherine. About, I'm imagining that the book will be applicable to all human relationships, not just in professional coaching scenarios. Absolutely.
Yes.
I think one of the things that happens is that we think that in order to look professional, we need to do a lot of work. And then when we do a lot of work, actually what we're doing is we're stopping the other person doing work. So we get an imbalance in the conversation. And so my hope is that people will feel free to get less anxious and to create more space. Because I was running a course this morning for coaches based on the last book, actually. And what was really interesting was that they were realizing that they don't need to occupy the whole space. They can step back, and they can, by stepping back, enable other people to do some really good and amazing work. So we just want people to work less hard.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. It's amazing. And to every other job, it's like work hard. And this one's do less. Just be impactful when you're doing it. Fab. And is there anything that's changed in your either presence or who you are from going through this experience?
Shall I go first? You write the book you need to read, don't you? I think the thing that's been most extraordinary for me that's changed is it takes, you know, we've had to be courageous to write about courage. We've talked about vulnerability. We've talked about humility. We've talked about all kinds of qualities. And when my dad died 3 weeks ago, the thing that was most extraordinary was like I had to bring all of it into one place. And my brother said, I don't know how you managed to do that. And actually what I realized was it was an opportunity to bring every single thing that I'd learned from work into my personal life. And I'm really, really grateful for the learning that enabled us to hold our nerve when our dad was dying, and we were on our own with him because we didn't have medics or anybody there. And it was like every chapter had its own little bit to taught us in that moment, and that was a really beautiful thing.
Oh, I've got shivers just hearing that, and I know that this book's dedicated as to your dad as well. But wonderful that it brought it to that really raw time where that courage and vulnerability was needed. Lovely. What about you, Lucia? Has anything changed for you, or you've noticed?
Well, I guess the big learning is the self-exploration and a new awareness about what's already there and what needs to be developed. Because we all are not perfect and work in progress. And so it's good to realize that and understand what needs to be grown to be able to support others better. And another great learning was connecting what's already there, so the qualities that I have developed to a point, to my life experience in the past. And so what you will read from both of us, it's lots of stories from our personal lives that got us to learn more, to bring more of that competence quality in the coaching room.
I love what this is contributing to coaching. Oh, like you say, broader to life, about not needing to be perfect. You know, that whole thing about thinking we've got it sorted, so we're okay. You know, I would never be a coach if that was the case. But just bringing your whole stories and that experience into life. Yeah, wonderful. There's a question that once it came in and I saw it, and I think it was on LinkedIn, we saw this from Martina and Lindsay. I thought, oh, we've got to ask this one. It's so pertinent right now. There's so many discussions about AI and AI in coaching. And the question was, do you believe the human will ever become redundant in coaching? So this is all about humans and humanity. But will we be redundant as humans?
No.
Claire, what do you think?
No. And the reason for that is that AI can do really good transactional coaching. So it can ask all the good questions, it can listen to the answers, and it can pretend, it can mimic emotional intelligence, but it can't feel. And it's the intangible connection that's the thing that makes the work happen, I think. I did a coaching demo in a supervision group on Friday. Well, it wasn't a demo because one of them wanted to think about something. And we barely spoke because she described what she wanted. If you're here, I'm not breaching any confidentiality, because she said, I want that, and I know I'll know I've got it because it will feel like this. Well, I don't think that AI would be able to know what to do with that. Then she went silent, and I just went, how's your... And she went, I got one.
Yeah.
So there are things that AI can't do. So some really good coaching will be able to be done at a transactional level in a really brilliant way by AI, but the human coach will still be really needed.
I love because that seemed to take us right back to what you were saying right at the beginning about that music. It's the things in between that are less tangible. And I wrote a piece on this. Somebody asked me to write a piece on this, and it made me laugh because I always have to go, with my neurodivergence, I go different places. And so I started to think about Les Dawson and Morecambe and Wise, where they said about piano playing, play all the right notes, are just in the wrong order. And I think sometimes that's what happens with the AI kind of thing, that, yeah, it might be the right thing that we're doing, but not actually got that human piano player in the background. What about you, Lucia? What's your thoughts on will we become redundant?
Absolutely not. And I couldn't say it better than how Claire did it. I think connecting to the human enables greater depth, and that cannot be done by a machine, by AI. There's been a research paper published lately about empathy in coaching and the importance of empathy throughout the coaching conversation as an enabler of greater depth and trust. And so I don't think this can be achieved with artificial intelligence.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think at that stage I can see some fabulous questions coming in. I've kind of just started this. I've got loads more questions in the back of my mind, but I think we'll hand over and back. And can I just say thank you while I have got the space to say thank you, and thank you for doing this book. It's amazing, and I've just been so privileged to just be on the sidelines watching it progress through, and it's just a delight to be here to celebrate with you. So thank you for answering all of our questions.